Week on buffering, we are talking about positioning debt and the 18-month lag you need to avoid in marketing. And Gabe, welcome to the podcast. This is the first kind of solo episode we've had in 2026 so far. So it's great to see you. Happy New Year. Actually, I think the statute of limitations has expired on saying
I think
Happy
it might
New
have
Year.
expired on that. Yeah, exactly. I know one of our colleagues, I'll call him by name, Bob Carrick, really gets annoyed when people say Happy New Year after like November 1st or after January 1st. He's like January 1st and then that's it. Like we're done with Happy New Year. So anyway, but yeah, it's great to see you, man.
Yeah, coming back after the holidays, I was so tired of saying Happy New Year. I started just saying obligatory Happy New Year, and then I would proceed with my question or whatever. But
too funny.
No, it's great to have you back. We've had some great podcast episodes the last couple of weeks here with some fantastic guests. But Gabe, it's always great to have a great marketing conversation with you, which I know we'll have today.
I'm excited. I know I love our guest podcast, but I also love just getting together with the two of us. It feels like a throwback, my friend. So I'm excited. And I wanted to start with a random story. I feel like we do this where we have like the non sequitur at the beginning of the podcast with a story that's not really relevant to our topic, but I have to tell you this story. And I told you a little bit about it, but I really got to get into the details of this fun experience that I have. So we're remodeling our bathroom right now. And it's like full tear down, remodel, like doing all of the things. And I had to order some stuff from Home Depot. And so I placed this order for Home Depot for a couple of fans that go into the ceiling, right? So like the, humidity fans, those sorts of things. And I selected to have it shipped to my house because I didn't want to go down to the store to pick it up. Why would anybody want to do that? That sounds like a terrible experience. And immediately I started getting text messages from Home Depot that they were going to be delivering it to my house that evening. They did like a full-on DoorDash thing where they had a person go to the store and pick it up and deliver it to my house within, I would say, 2 hours. I did not pay any extra for this service. They just did it completely on their own because they thought that it would improve the overall customer experience. Have you had any experience like this? Isn't that completely insane?
So, yes. So as the single guy I am, and I needed a TV for my apartment, and I went to Walmart, in this case, used their app, and they did the same thing. They brought it by that day, and you could like pick your time, and you could pay to have it. Like it was like $9 if you wanted it like within the hour kind of thing. I was like, I'm okay waiting, a little bit. But it was the same thing, this DoorDash style Walmart employee rolls up. We unload this TV, and they're on their way, and I didn't have to, lug this thing not only through the store, but then into my car. So I don't think it would have fit in my car, which was like the main thing here. But no, I think it's a great experience.
Well, it was, but it also got me thinking, like, how insane is that? And how do they make that business work? Like, I don't understand how they could afford to pay somebody to go pick these things up from the store and then drive them to my house. It was probably an hour and a half of work for somebody because I don't live that close to a Home Depot. And I've talked about my neighbor before on the podcast. He had the exact same experience. He ordered something and the same thing. They brought it to his house and it was like a $30 item. Like it wasn't even a high price item and they brought it to his house. I just don't understand how this business model works. There's no way they could be making money with this.
Hopefully soon it's coming by drone and you get it that way.
Like I said, I love, certainly good from a customer experience perspective. I got my stuff faster, but it did really make me question the validity of this business model. And like, is this necessary? It was one of those things, where you go, okay, yeah, that was, I guess, helpful, but it was completely unnecessary. I would have been totally happy if it showed up 3 days later instead of 3 hours after I ordered it.
You know what's going to happen next, and I've done this with my parents. We were doing like plumbing projects. Is you have to go to the Home Depot aisle, and you got to find the right pipes, the right connectors, and everything. You spend an hour in that aisle just getting the right pipes. You could just go into the app, select the ones or the pieces you need, and have that brought to you. It's in the future, Gabe. If you're ever in a Home Depot, you're going to be immediately frustrated by the fact you're in a Home Depot compared to this experience.
I mean, not to rag on Home Depot, but it is generally a terrible experience. I'm reading this book right now.
I like Home Depot. I
Really?
they're a sponsor of this podcast. I love shopping at no, I'm just kidding.
I'm reading this book right now called Founder's Mentality. And it talks about Home Depot actually in the book. And the Home Depot kind of lost their way. For a long time, their big thing was their mantra was do it yourself. So it was trying to empower people with the ability that they could do these home projects themselves. Well, over time, they slashed employees in the store. And so when you walk into a Home Depot, good luck finding anybody to help you. You're going to be walking around and wandering around that store by yourself for a long time. And so the joking internal mantra, I guess, at Home Depot went from do it yourself to find it yourself, which I thought was pretty funny and fell very in line with my experience of going to Home Depot.
This, I don't mind going to Home Depot, but this is the last thing I'll say about the subject until we move on. But you know what infuriates me, and it's not just Home Depot that does this, but if you use the Home Depot app, you can type in what you're looking for, and it will say, "Hey, go to aisle, 16, bay 5, whatever that is," right? And you can go there. And if you still can't find it, if you ask an employee like, "Hey, I'm looking for, this piece," they pull out the same app and type it in, and it's like, "Well, it should be in aisle 16, bay 5." That infuriates me so much.
That is pretty bad. Yeah, it's a very similar experience. My wife had to go to the store this week to go pick out some plumbing fixtures, and she was super annoyed because she went into the store and the person in the store pulled up the store's website and then started searching for things online. And she's like, why did I have to come here? I totally could have done this myself from the comfort of my own home. But anyway, so once again, Zach, we have talked about a topic that has absolutely nothing to do with our main topic today. So let us bring it back to this, because I know you're very excited about this topic that we're going to dive into today.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about Crumble. No, we're not talking about Crumble today. I had to sneak that one in too for 2026. The markets are going to be popping off now. But we're talking about debt today. And we're not talking about, your typical household debt, or Gabe, dare I say, the bathroom renovation debt. But
God, yeah,
I want to talk about...
I'll never financially recover from this, but it'll be fine.
I want to specifically talk about BSPs and the networks they've built, and then what they're doing to these networks here. So to open it up here, a lot of our BSPs, they built out these great fiber networks. They've got the latest technology from 2020. It's the latest speeds across those networks as well. But when it comes to their marketing and really their website, you're still talking to a customer from, 2+ years ago. And there's this kind of phrase, retention through relevance. And I think that's going to come into play a lot today through this episode as well, because as we see these new competitors come into your market, how are you staying relevant? Gabe, a lot of these competitors, they're doing some really cool things. They have some very integrated tech stacks. They have, some of the best websites we've seen with the ability to buy service with a couple clicks, a Face ID scan. Combining all of this into, what your digital storefront looks like today, that's really what I think we want to talk about today. And we're going to call it positioning debt. So this is when you have this high digital presence, in this case, a website again, that was optimized for customers of the past.
Yep. I love that. The retention through relevance phrase, I'm a big fan of. I think that's super relevant and something that's going to be weaved throughout the conversation today. But to your point, Zach, when your website is stuck in that legacy narrative, it creates this disconnect with the modern subscriber, and it's driving up acquisition costs. It's accelerating churn because the way that you're phrasing everything and speaking to your customer is misaligned and is not relevant for either retaining people as they're going through the buy flow or retaining the actual customers once you've signed them up.
Yeah, and Gabe, I asked you this question before we started the podcast. I said, how did you use the internet 18 months ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever that may be? And if you think about it, it was very different than how you use the internet today. And we're going to talk about some of this, especially from like an SEO, GEO perspective here in a bit. But just think about how the internet has changed in even the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I'll say here is, just with consumers as well, brand positioning and marketing. It's often seen as like the static project. You go through this website redesign, you launch it, your customers use it, your prospects use it, and you kind of forget about it. But it should be this dynamic system that's constantly changing, constantly being updated. And again, that's going to be the main topic here today.
And constantly realigning to your point, how people are changing their behavior on the internet. I sent you this screenshot a few weeks ago. I had to Google a plumber. And when I searched it, one of the things that popped up in the Google results was check prices for that particular business, even if they don't necessarily have their prices online. I thought that was really interesting, and how AI is pulling all of that information together now to actually provide some level of pricing information in that type of service industry. So to your point, maybe even 18 days, certainly 6 months ago, I wouldn't have seen that because that functionality didn't exist. 18 months ago, it probably wasn't even an idea. So with people changing their behavior and how they're engaging, you've got to think about how your digital presence aligns to that.
And when we talk about positioning debt, there's a few different types of debt here. So we can start off by talking about the technical debt. And this is less of a marketing situation here, but this is going to be, an unstable network. If you have frequent outages, broken systems, too many truck rolls, that's all more of the technical debt. Now, from there, we can talk about positioning debt. And this is really how you position your company, how you position your brand, how you position your products and services. If you have vague messaging, it's going to lead to low conversions. And what this is caused by, it's really a failure to choose a segment or use like outdated persona data. Gabe, in the past, you've talked about like, well, everyone's my audience and how that
I
doesn't
was
work.
just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Yes. It's so
Yeah.
infuriating, right? When you hear, well, who's my target market? Well, 18 to 75-year-olds, and it's like, okay, that's not a target market. That's just literally everybody or pretty much everybody. And I have seen providers fall into this trap because, yes, technically the internet is for everybody, but it doesn't mean that you have to actually explain the benefits of your services in the exact same way, just broadly across the market.
Yeah. And our next type of debt here is that strategic debt. And this is where you might set different metrics that you want your business to be held accountable to. You might have that high output to meet those metrics, but you're solving the wrong problems, or you're again targeting the wrong metrics. So these metrics are just flat. They're not moving, you're not growing, your revenue's flat. Nothing's really happening in your business in that case. And the last one here is
Can I
just
say something on that one
oh
really
yeah.
quick before we move on to the last one? It's interesting, Zach, because I feel like you and I have these conversations from time to time with providers, and we ask questions like, well, how many subscribers are you adding on a monthly basis? And they'll say 200. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, how many customers are churning? 200. And it's like, all right, so we're just spinning our wheels and going nowhere. I mean, even
Solving
if
the
that's
wrong
a
problem,
situation, yeah, exactly. You're solving the wrong problem. Even if it's, I'm adding 225, but I'm losing 200. That's a really, really hard way to make a living. Yes, your subscriber count may be going up in that situation. It's not even as bad as Zach described in his example, but it's still a really hard way to make a living. And to your point, you're solving for the wrong problem.
Isn't that like gambling? Like, oh, I won $50,000, but it took me $60,000 to get there, kind of thing.
Hey, just don't let my wife listen to this, because no, I won $50,000. It doesn't matter that I lost 60,000 to win the 50,000. Come on.
And again, speaking of debt, now the marketing debt. I think a lot of this is caused by ignoring your processes during rapid growth periods, and this is something we've seen with providers. Gabe, they go out, they build these networks. The network's done. Well, now we need to monetize it. We need to get subscribers on this network, and that needs to happen rapidly. And I kind of came up with this term here as we were planning the podcast, Gabe.
I love this term.
But I'm going to call it the Frankenfunnel. And this is something I see. I don't know if every day, if not every week is the right term here, but you do a great job on refreshing your ads to reflect current trends, your current products and services, but you leave your sign up or your check availability pages in the past. It's still that static page you made 2+ years ago. Gabe, I feel like I'm being very nice when I say 2+ years ago. We're talking like oftentimes 10+ years ago on a lot of these websites where, again, you've developed maybe the best ads ever, but your website is still stuck in that past.
Invitation doesn't match the party, man. And it causes dissonance and people to not convert because they don't understand why this really great ad that I clicked on now goes back to a website that looks like something, a half a decade or a decade old. And you're right. I see this very frequently too, where, our industry had a lot of rapid growth over the last 5 years, and a situation where there were lots of subscribers signing up for services, kind of coming out of the woodworks as people realized, hey, the internet's actually important. And if I want to work from home and learn from home and do all these things, then I need this service. But unfortunately, to your point, a lot of the language on these websites hasn't evolved. And now it's getting harder and much more competitive. And you need to rethink how you're framing these solutions up for customers.
So let's talk about the evolution of the
Hmm.
subscriber here. And I mean, if you think about just consumer behavior in general over the last several years, it's changed significantly. Again, in our industry here, we've moved from what I'm going to call a bandwidth consumer into this, digital ecosystem orchestrator, right? And I feel like I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here, but I hate when BSPs talk about fast download speeds. That really bothers me now in 2026 because if you're still talking about fast downloads, I think you're missing the reality of the smart home, multi-device, TV-centric subscriber. What are the needs of your subscribers? Also, who's downloading stuff in 2026? It's all, cloud-based. But yeah, the fast downloads, I think you're missing the reality of the internet in 2026 and how your subscribers are engaging with your products and services.
I might make people mad with this, and Zach, I know you've seen this on websites, but there is the bar of like how quickly you can download a specific thing. And not trying to throw shade, but if
No, no, no.
that's
We
something
are
that's
trying to
on your
throw shade.
website, okay, well, maybe Zach is. I mean, the reality is, again, yeah, and it feels very antiquated because the ones that I have seen more frequently are things like downloading photos or downloading MP3s, or I'm like, really? Is anybody still talking in this way? Like you said, everything has moved to a streaming world,
Well,
music, video, everything.
the one that drives me crazy is like the one where it says like download, a song on iTunes. And I'm like, downloaded a song on iTunes. What are we, like 2005 suddenly?
Hmm.
Like that's not the reality of the modern consumer. For me, Gabe, I want to know, I do a lot of streaming, of course. I do some, Xbox cloud gaming, things like that. I want to know how, your product and service is going to fit my lifestyle. I don't want to know how many iTunes songs I can download in 2026, how many pictures I can download. I get the
Even how
reality of
many
this.
games you could download. I mean, that's not really relevant anymore either.
Well, and this, I might have this as a talking point later on, but I think consumers are onto us, and I don't
Mm.
want to say us here, but consumers are onto the fact that they don't need 5 gigabit per second internet to watch a TV show on Netflix, and again, this is going to amplify here in 2026. But I saw this
Agreed.
study here, and it said something like I think it was 81% of consumers say they need to trust a brand before they make a decision. And I think we've seen this a lot with companies like Apple, and having that privacy focus tends to work very well for them. And for BSPs, we've seen this with broadband labels. Love or hate them. I love the transparency. I just hate the designer in me just hates the slapping those on a website.
Yeah.
But people love to see, that transparency, that clear pricing, those privacy controls as well. And the reason I bring this up is because if you think about your old consumers, these are going to be people who are focused on the fastest plans, maybe. They want one router. They might be looking for the cheapest introductory offer. Gabe, you just mentioned, the story about finding a plumber and seeing their pricing information right there. Great.
Hmm.
That's your race to the bottom. Also, I don't know if I'd hire the cheapest plumber, but that's not my problem. The subscriber in 2026 is focused on the connected devices, IoT, smart TVs, jitter-free cloud gaming, work from home experience. They're looking for value and data privacy. And going back to my previous rant, talking about how fast you can download an iTunes song is not it.
No, that ain't it, man. I couldn't agree with you more there.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big takeaway here, Gabe, with positioning debt is what we can call feature fatigue, right? So BSPs advertise their tech specs that, maybe they put them on their website 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, cringing a little bit saying that. But at some point, you put these tech specs on your website, but they don't really align to subscriber pain points anymore.
Hmm.
One of the ones I always see is like managed Wi-Fi included. And I always tell people if you don't explain, the value or the benefit of what managed Wi-Fi is, it's going to leave it open to interpretation, and people can kind of make up what they think managed Wi-Fi is.
100%. I saw one just this week. I went and was looking at a website from a customer of ours, and it said Gigaspire Wi-Fi system included. And as much as I love the fact that, the customer wants to call out the fact that it's a Gigaspire,
What does that mean?
what does that mean? What does that mean to the average consumer? If you're using that technical jargon, or in this case, the jargon of the language from the vendor who you're purchasing that equipment from, then something has gone terribly wrong. I was having this conversation too with some colleagues earlier this week, and I think one of the things I would really encourage people to do who work in the broadband industry is to, and Zach and I, frankly, you and I talk about this a lot, but take a step back and think about an industry that you're not an expert in. That could be insurance, that could be banking. I like those two examples because they're regulated industries also. They have to provide a lot of you have to provide a lot of disclosures. They use language that's sometimes difficult to understand. In the insurance industries, it's co-pays and, those types of things. In banking, it's APRs and APYs and, all of those sorts of things, which Zach, you and I nerd out on this stuff, but we're not the average consumer when it comes to those sorts of things. So take a step back, look at how other companies and other industries are framing this up, and then look to apply that to how you're framing your solutions up for your customers. And if you can't understand something in the banking or insurance industry because it's just buried in technical jargon or legalese, why are you doing that same thing with your broadband services that you're trying to sell to those same consumers?
I mean, everyone else is doing it, right, Gabe? So how do I blend in with everyone else?
Yeah, exactly.
The next thing I'll talk about is just a little bit about AI here. And since we're talking about websites, we have to talk about AI taking this new role over the past couple years as the digital gatekeeper here. So this is where, when you're talking about brand discovery and making purchase decisions, AI is very much influencing your search results or, what content is being displayed to users. And there's also a level of personalization here that wasn't wasn't even possible 2 years ago, Gabe. This is still relatively new from this perspective. And when you talk about customer experience here, we I keep going into this, everyone has this FAQ page. It's a static page that again you developed in the past. It's not speaking to your customers today versus, like an AI driven self-healing assistant that you'd have on your website to help customers or, even the AI agents that are out there today that people can ask questions about, hey, what do you think of my BXP or, whatever that may be. AI is playing this new gatekeeper role, and that's got to be very top of mind for people as you look at your website today, look at what state it's in, and where you want it to go next.
And what's crazy, Zach, is I think it's been like 8 months since we had Gina on the show and talking about a lot of this stuff. And, she was sharing that about her experience of, looking at her company on Google in AI mode specifically and seeing what results came back. And she shared some great thoughts in that episode around removing older content, getting content out of there that's no longer relevant so that people aren't just seeing those results in an AI search preview and assuming that that is still accurate for how you're selling your services currently. I would imagine there's still a lot of work to do there broadly across our industry for people of going back, removing that content that's no longer relevant and making sure that as they're showing up in AI results, whether that's in Google or whatever, that it's actually relevant information and accurate information.
So we're kicking off 2026. We're a week in now, and what better time to do a marketing audit? And I think that BSPs really do need to take a minute, and by a minute I mean take some time and do a comprehensive audit across their business that combines technical performance with strategic alignment. And there's a couple different areas you could focus on here. Number one being just your ideal customer profile. Does the content you make match this ICP? Everything from the images on your website to the text on your website. Gabe, we've done some fascinating split tests with just images and seen how that could influence a buyer's decision.
Totally. And well, I know we're going to talk about the digital checkout and the UX flow here in a sec. So maybe I'll hold this point, Zach.
You can talk about it.
Okay. I was going to say, may I be so bold as to say that Zach and I have developed, I think, in partnership with a lot of our colleagues here as well, some very interesting prompts to let AI do a lot of this heavy lifting for you. And this is something I cannot recommend enough. And, I was going to say, I'll be so bold as to say that feel free to reach out to Zach and I, and we're happy to share these prompts. It's something that I really recommend because oftentimes we get, especially if we were the one who created the website, we get very precious about the language that's on there. We get very precious about the images and the formats and all of those sorts of things. I think where AI can be really beneficial here, and maybe you didn't create it, but your boss did. And so you have to be really delicate about how you're framing up potential changes that you would want to make. What I love about leveraging AI for this is it removes a lot of the emotion out of the conversation. And it's no longer it's no longer Zach's opinion and Zach doesn't like the website, therefore he's talking about it. It's, hey, look, we're pulling all of these best practices from, broadly across the internet, taking that and doing an analysis on your own website to figure out what changes need to happen, whether that's in narrative, whether that's in imagery, whether that's in a checkout and buy flow. You and I have done analysis on that many times as well. So I just wanted to mention that, as I think it's a really key part of this as you're looking to do this audit, is leverage the technology not only to help you do it, because it will be a heck of a lot easier, but also it will remove a lot of the emotion out of the conversation.
I think that's fantastic advice.
I don't know what else to say, man.
Well, I always laugh though because sometimes I see people in their AI prompts. They'll say like, "Be honest with me." And I'm like, well, okay, as if like AI is going to intentionally, mislead you or add that emotion into the equation here. Hopefully, it's not just making things up anyway. But Gabe, the digital checkout, the flow as well here.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's very important. You mentioned it a few minutes ago about the invite not matching the party, and of course, we can't stop talking about plumbing now with your bathroom renovation. So
I
check
know.
check for pipeline leaks. If you have a billing portal, a third party integration, are they slow? Are they efficient? Is something broken? Is it providing a good customer experience? Because if you have a pipeline leak, Gabe, as you probably know, this is going to be a hole in your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, where does that potential breakdown happen? And hopefully you have some statistics around, even if it's just basic things like how many people are coming to the site, how many people are entering the buy flow, how many people are actually converting at the end of it. Like in an ideal world, I'd love to have some additional, data points across that flow too. Where did they fall off? Those sorts of things. But even if it's just those three really basic data points, you can start to understand, oh my gosh, I had 5,000 visitors to my website and only 50 of them bought. So, really trying to understand where that breakdown happened so you can make those small tweaks and have less leaky, have less.
I was just going to make a joke about that, Gabe, going back to our comment earlier. I was like, yeah, you had, 5,000 people visit your website, but only 2 of them converted. Like, yeah, great news. And then you just bring it right back down. The next thing here to audit, though, and this is going to be everyone's favorite, but it's the data. You've got to audit the data. Bad data fuels bad marketing results. You don't want to pay a lazy tax. If you know something's if you know something's broken and you willingly just ignore that and use that knowingly bad data, you're just setting yourself up for those poor marketing results.
Yeah, agreed. I will push back a little bit on this one, Zach, in that perfection can oftentimes here be the enemy of good.
There is no perfect data, but there is good data.
Exactly. There is good data. It's very rare that we have perfect data. So, it's law of diminishing returns, right? To go back to college economics class. Okay, you get to 95%. How much more work is it going to take me to get the additional 5% versus the cost of running a campaign where a couple of people may get something? It's that cost benefit analysis and law of diminishing returns. At some point, you just have to stop and go with the good data that you have.
Well, I mean,
I completely agree with you there.
If you have data on 95% of your market, and that data is saying, hey, 15% of our market is over the age of 70. So that's enough data to make some very, strategic decisions about your products and services. Or if you know that,
Exactly.
again, like 50% are families, again, you have good data in those cases. So yeah, just don't willingly use bad data if you can avoid that. Last thing here, though, to audit is just the content itself. You have zombie pages. Gabe, you kind of alluded to this. Pages that on your website, they're getting traffic. People are coming to visit them, but they have no conversions. Think about those pages. Identify those pages. You're probably talking to the wrong person. You're maybe selling or offering an outdated solution, but really take a look at your website and see and understand how people are engaging with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know we've talked about this tool before, but it's been a long time. And so I just want to call this out really specifically. Microsoft Clarity is an amazing tool to do a lot of what we're talking about here. Understand how people are engaging with your website, how deep they're engaging, where are they clicking, how deep are they scrolling, what pages are they visiting, are they visiting from one page to the other, how much time they're spending, those sorts of things. The reason I like Clarity is a couple of reasons. One, it's free, so price is right. Two, it's all GDPR and CCPA compliant. So from a data privacy perspective, you don't have to worry about that. And I would say the third reason is it's super easy to set up. There's a small snippet of code. You just have to install that on your website, and then you get really deep insight into how people are engaging with your website. We recently made some tweaks, Zach, to the website of the co-working space that I'm involved with here in the town that I live. And one of the big reasons we did that was we saw that the membership section was a bit lower on the page and a relatively small percentage of people were getting there. And that's really where our funnel starts, is people actually clicking into that membership section. And so decided to move that up a bit higher. And all of a sudden, there's a lot more conversions coming from the website because people are actually engaging with that. And we were able to do a before and after comparison to see, okay, previously only 35% of people were even reaching this portion of the page. Now we've got 65 or 70% of people reaching that portion of the page. And so we can do that comparison before and after to really see if the tweaks that we're making actually make sense.
And by the way, it has an AI integration. So, Gabe, I don't know if I told you this, but I was doing a demo in Clarity a while back, and on the demo site there, it had a recommendation. I was totally going to text you and be like, hey, you might consider moving things around here, but it was just Copilot telling me about this.
Yeah, no, the AI integrations are super cool. The other one is the dead clicks piece, and where people are going and clicking on something that they think should go somewhere and it's not actually taking them anywhere. So we made a couple of those recent tweaks as well to actually hyperlink language that people were consistently clicking on that would actually drive them into a purchase flow. It was like, purchase a day pass, sign up for a membership. It was written out, but it didn't actually go anywhere. So just again, some of those small, subtle things that you may not think about. And I was talking to one of the partners there, and he was saying, when you're doing this type of research, it's amazing how people will approach a website and think that they need to purchase from it. Like you cannot possibly imagine all of the different ways that somebody will engage with your website until you actually watch them do it. We're very strange creatures, and sometimes we operate in very strange ways. So having that data and insight allows you to be really thoughtful about where to put all of these things, not just based on your assumptions, but actually based on how people are interacting.
Absolutely. So the call to action here, Gabe, I think number one is pay down your debt. Pay down your debt. Your website must evolve from this static catalog of gigabit per second or megabits per second to this dynamic, trust-driven engine. And again, based on everything we said to here, maintaining a website that talks to buyer 18 months ago is nothing more than a strategic failure that's going to erode the ROI of this fantastic network that you've just built out.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great point. And we've talked about a little bit of this too, but auditing for that debt, if you're recognizing that these shifts are happening and you can secure that dominant market position, and especially if you're doing it in a competitive environment where maybe your competitors aren't being as proactive and thinking forward as you are, you're going to be in a great position to really succeed and create significant breadth between you and your competition.
You're risking you're risking losing permanent market share. And I think with everything we talked about today with positioning debt, you should be off to the right start in 2026.
Love it.
All right. Well, Gabe, thank you for joining me in this conversation here today. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Buffering. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app and to share it with your friends and colleagues. And for more insights and updates, be sure to connect with Gabe and I on LinkedIn.